Hey there, and welcome to another 12 by 12 sketch. This sketch is a great one for those oddly paired photos where you have a vertical and a horizontal photo to match up together, and that kind of composition can be tricky, and so this is a simple sketch for you to use over and over again in different orientations and combinations to get a look that you like for a layout. So today I'm going to be scrapbooking these two photos, and I only seem to scrapbook Halloween in this class, so I always seem to pull out some Halloween photos or some pumpkin carving photos when I'm doing this class. And there are a few things that I want to point out, both about the photos and about the supplies that I've pulled. So as far as photos go, in the sketch, we have it so that the left photo is the vertical and the right photo is the horizontal. But you can easily flip this entire sketch or just flip the photos in the title area to fit your photos. And so my photos, you can see in this particular photo, my daughter, her face is pointing down and to the left. And if I were to place this photo on the left-hand side, you see when I put these together, she's going to be looking off the page here. I do not want that. And so what I'm going to do is orient my photos this way so that she's looking into the page and into this other photo rather than off the page. So already I'm going to just switch up the sketch by flipping the photos. Now I don't know if I'm going to mirror the entire thing. I may do that, or I might just flip the photos in the title area. I haven't quite decided yet. Here's the other thing. I never have, because I only scrapbook Halloween once or twice a year, I never have photos, and so, I never have scrapbooking supplies that are specifically geared for Halloween. And so what I do, and what you can do, is pull all the things black, orange, yellow even, and I like to throw in a bit of aqua, and all the things that are stars. And those are the things that I've pulled for my layout today. So I wanted to show you some of the things that I'm going to be using on this layout and that I've pulled for this. Now, I'm gonna go with a bold background, and I'm gonna go boldly with this kind of aqua color. And the reason that I'm doing that, these photos are very yellow, very orangey. And when I put it on the blue, which is a cool color, now this is a warmer blue-green, but still cool compared to the yellow in the photos, then it really makes the photos pop, and it helps them not seem quite so warm because they can seem overly warm. Now, if I were to place this on a different pattern paper that was a little bit more on the orangey side, let me show you what that would look like. Okay, so here's this paper that seems like it's a really great match to the photos, and it really, really is a great match to the photos. But when I put my photos on this paper, it just seems like yellow-orange overload. It's too much. And so one of the ways that I like to combat really blue photos is to put them on a warmer color, and I do the same with really warm photos to put them on a cool color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair this with some papers that bring in a little bit of the warmth, and one of those papers is this yellow pattern here, but I'm not going to place it right underneath the photos or anything. It's going to be one of my little pattern paper strips at the bottom. And so I'm still going to get the complement of that kind of orangey yellow color without overwhelming my photos with the warmth. So just kind of a note there. I'm also going to be using for my top border on the sketch, it shows a border with a scallop. You can do anything you want. What I'm going to do is pull one of the cut files from the class, which is this fringe border. In the class, there's an 8.5 by 11 version and a 12 by 12 version, and so I'm going to actually layer them up and use them both up here at the top and just stitch those down. And so that's kind of where I'm starting. I want it to be kind of light and bright with some orange and like warmer pops of color. So I wanted to show you the other products that I pulled that I think will work for Halloween, even though they're not Halloween themed. So the first thing I did was I went to my Ellie Studio stuff because I knew I had just a couple of things that might actually say October or Halloween on them, and I did find a wood veneer that said October, two of them actually. One is small and one is a script, and so I might use either one of those. And then I pulled a bunch of die cuts, and so I'm going to call this layout carving time, and I'm going to talk about how we had to make time to carve pumpkins this year in the morning. We're all getting busier, but we always like to, as a Scow family, carve pumpkins together every year. And so I've pulled out just any orange and aqua and kind of brown, any kind of die cuts that I think might work for these colors. And none of them say anything about Halloween on them. So there's gray, there's orange, there's aqua, and there's black and white. That's pretty much what I pulled, and also some yellow. I pulled the clocks to go along with my carving time theme. And then the other thing that I pulled was just stars. So I have some Ali Edwards stars. I have all of these wood veneer and acrylic stars, and I just pulled out the acrylic stars in the colors that I thought would match. So I have wood veneer and acrylic stars. So those are the things I have in my little jar here to the side. And the other things that I pulled are orange word stickers. I pulled these alphabets, which I might use for part of my title, that are just black with gold polka dots. I thought those would work nicely. Stars, stars, black. There's orange here. There's orange and yellow here. Stars, stars and orange. Stars, stars, black. Orange and black and aqua. This has all the colors. It also adds in pink, but these are really great colors. Even though these are summer stuff, they're summer little words, a lot of them work for anything. So this is more stars. These are actually white rub-ons that I might use in the background. And then these are just some washi strips, but they had stars and they had orange. So you can see I just pulled all the things: orange, black, white, yellow, and stars. And that's where I'm going to create this Halloween layout from, and I don't even need any Halloween products. So with that in mind, and with the other things I talked about as far as the photos and the colors go, that's where I'm going to start on this one, and switching my photos like this, and I'll go ahead and put you on fast forward and talk you through my decision making process.
Okay, so starting by cutting off the branding strip, of course, on my pattern paper, and I'm going to play around with placement and my title first. So I know I want my title to be carving time because we carved out time to carve pumpkins, and I like the double entendre there. And so I'm trying to figure out, I think I'm going to use those black letters for the word time, and I'm trying to figure out what to use for the word carving. And I thought maybe I would use these puffy alphabet stickers from Ellie's Studio. And I'm placing them on some wax paper so I can see if that's what I like, because I am indecisive. And I feel like they don't stand out enough, and they're not quite large enough or something. They're not working for me. So I'm going to try something else, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do. I really like the way that that clock looks and the way that the word time looks when you overlap it. And I'm thinking about using that little wood veneer that says October. I want to paint half of it. So I'm taking some washi tape and taping off the top half, and I'm going to paint the bottom half of it white. So I'm just taping it to, this is a Teflon sheet from Ranger that I've just cut in half to use for small projects like this. And I'm using some white acrylic paint to go ahead and paint that on. I'm impatient, so I'm using my heat tool there to dry that up, and then painting on another coat, heating it again, and then I think I'm going to be done with it. And I like the way that it ends up looking. I'm just going to throw my craft sheet to the side, and I use a baby wipe to kind of clean things up. And it looks super cool, right? So I'm happy with that. I did get paint all over because I didn't think about the back of the thing drying, but it's okay because I'll cover it up with my journaling and stuff on the bottom in a minute here. So just make sure your stuff is dry if you paint anything. So I'm thinking I might use the Ellie's Studio alphabet stickers in black to spell out the word carving. And I kind of think that I need to do a lowercase. I thought about doing uppercase at first, but because the word time is in uppercase, I want something that contrasts with it a little bit. And so I'm using my lowercase letters here, and I like it better than I liked the white, but I'm having a hard time because I really want to use that word October as well, and I want it to fit together. So I am taking my good old Sharpie and some white cardstock, and I am writing out the word carving. because sometimes I like to do this where I just hand write out the word and then cut it out, and it looks kind of like a word sticker that you would get on a sticker sheet. And I wrote it 3 times, but I'm ending up using the first version because that one was the best. Usually is, but sometimes it's not. So I'm just using some close to my heart scissors to fussy cut that out, and I really like the way that looks. And so now I'm going to try to figure out how I can use that and the word October with it. And I decide that I will put the word carving to the left of the word time and put October above it. And I really like that. So now I'm going to place my fringe border. When I do cut files, I test them all out on white cardstock, and then I can just use them for whatever, and I can color them if I want to. And so I'm just using the white cardstock that I have here. There's a nice little shot of my face trying to get my sewing machine right. I was changing it to black thread because I wanted something that was really going to pop against that white fringe border. And so I am stitching down the white fringe twice with just some black thread there at the top. And I love the contrast of the black there. And you can get the same look with a black pen, but I think the stitching just adds a nice detail. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to my photo placement, and I'm placing my photos a little bit to the left because I'm going to place a lot of embellishment to the right hand side of that photo. Remember, in this sketch there's kind of like a little vine or something going up the side. So before I get my photo placed down, I'm going to try to use some of these rub-ons. They're pretty old. I think they're from 2009 or earlier from Basic Gray. Maybe not quite, but they're pretty old. They're more than 5 years old. And so I'm just rubbing down the rub-ons randomly, and they just give this most subtle detail and texture to the layout. And in the end, a lot of it gets covered up, but I like the little bits that are peeking out in the final layout, and I'm happy to just get these used up because they're just sitting there in my stash and have been for years. So I'm just kind of, sometimes I'm selectively choosing what I rub on, and there was a part that said October, and so I was trying to make sure I got that part on and the numbers and stuff like that. But I'm really just kind of being random and making sure that I get it in. It's just basically going to be to the left hand side of that photo, or to the right, sorry. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim a little piece to put below my photos for a banner, and I decide to type up my journaling on my computer to make into a banner as well. And I am just dovetailing the ends of these, and the way that I found works best for me to do that is to cut a slit up the center of your piece, and then go from each corner to the top of that slit that you cut, and that works really well. So I printed out my banner again because I wanted to leave a little space at the bottom to stitch in black, because I want to bring that same black stitch detail that's on the top down to the bottom. So I just cut it, I just printed it one more time so that I could have that space at the bottom, because I had cut that space off when I originally cut it out. So just grabbing my sewing machine again, it sits on my desk and I can just pull it over when I need to use it. So just stitching one single line on this one, and I really like the way the black thread just adds that nice contrast, and it's really good, especially on a Halloween layout like this, or I guess it's a pumpkin layout, not necessarily Halloween, right? So I really like the way that looks, and I'm thinking about that washi tape that I'm using to tape down on the back. It kind of matches this page nicely, so I'm keeping it handy just in case I want to add some to the layout later. And now I'm going to go ahead and get my title worked on, and I'm really happy with the way that the title area turned out. And now I'm going to start creating this embellishment on the right. Now, I don't have vines to go on the right, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I have pulled a bunch of different die cuts that I can layer up to get that same kind of impact. And so I'm just playing around, and I'm letting some of those rub-ons show, and I'm just trying to get a good balance of the orange and the black and the aqua to the left of my photo. I'm wanting to use a little tab so I can stamp the date in there. And I can't decide if I want to use the orange or the wood grain, but I'm going to play around with it a few more times before I'm done. I really like those flat wood veneer stars, and they match with the wood veneer October. And in a minute here, you'll see me paint those as well. these freckled fawn chipboard pieces were perfect. There's one that says messy hands, happy faces, and that was just perfect for this photo of my daughter digging the guts out of her pumpkin. So I love that. And so I'm using that little piece, and then I'm also going to use some of the black ones too. And just making sure everything's nice and straight. I will use some aqua, so it's kind of a tone on tone look with the aqua because the background is that same kind of color. And I'm going to pop some of the pieces up just to get some interest. And this little orange tab, I'm making it so that it fits around the word for the top right hand side of the get to work. So I mentioned that I'm going to paint on those stars, so I'm just taping down half of it and then using that same white paint I had left over from before, using my heat gun because I'm impatient, and doing 2 coats so that it matches the October die cut. Actually, I think I did 3 coats on the stars. Yeah. So for right now, I'm painting 2, but in a minute, I'll paint a 3rd one because I needed 1 more. So I really like the way those look, and the way the wood grain adds a little bit of warmth to the layout. So that's another way to add warmth in a pop of color, is to use wood veneers rather than the background papers like I talked about at the beginning. So now I'm just trying to decide how I'm going to get this top part to work. The bottom part's really full and it goes all the way to the right hand side of the layout, but the top part, if I put the tab there, there's nothing to the right of it and it's not filling up the space as much. And so I'm just trying to think about what I want to do. And I decided to go with the orange tab, and I just stamped October 2016. And I'm thinking I can add another little wood veneer piece, and I'll grab another wood veneer star here in just a second, but I'm also adding another word sticker, and then I'm going to grab a black one and add it to the bottom because that's going to balance that love this circle that I have in the center. So all the while I'm putting this cluster together, I am thinking about how the colors can be spread out and how the shapes can be spread out, all of that kind of balancing act. I'm going to go ahead and put down my title because I'm still not sure of what to do to the right hand side of that label. It still feels empty to me, but I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down my title area because that's what I know. And so if I don't know what to do, I'll move on to what I do know that I want to do. Gluing down that word October, and I'm just using Scotch Quick Dry adhesive in my fine line bottle. You'll see me use that throughout the class. You can buy those bottles empty and put whatever adhesive you like. I decided to grab these Allie Edwards stars, and they are the perfect color of yellow to match that yellow polka dot border strip. And so I'm going to sprinkle those in to my die cut cluster to the right of the photo and also in my title area. And I think that works really nicely. I decided to grab another black circle to bring a little bit more black up to the top here. And so now I have 3 shots of black, 2 circles, and then the little word strip at the bottom. I've got some orange, I've got some aqua, and I've got some wood veneer, and I've got also those stars. So here's where I'm trying to find another wood veneer piece to layer in there, and those 2 stars are going to be perfect to fill up that space. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint that really quickly, and rather than even grab my little tool, I just held it in my hand while I painted, not my tool, my Ranger Craft mat. I just held the star in my hand and painted it because I was being super lazy. And sometimes when you're getting so close, you just want to get it done right. So that's kind of how I was feeling at this moment. So I grabbed my heat tool and dry that up, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that down as well as the sequin. And I'll glue down all of the sequins. And I'm just using the same adhesive, just a little dot of it underneath the sequin. And I really, really love the way that ends up looking. So that's going to finish this one off for me. I'm going to come back here and talk to you about final layout versus the original sketch.
All right, so let's have a look at the final layout and the original sketch. You can see that it's very similar, and I decided to actually keep my banners going the same direction. Rather than flipping the entire sketch, I just decided to go ahead and flip just the one side of it. And so, or just the the photos and the embellishment and journaling. So basically this whole middle area is what I flipped. And you can see that rather than, in my mind when I created this sketch, I thought it would be cute to have like leaves or flowers coming up from on the side of the photo, but because this was a story about carving pumpkins, I didn't really have something like that, and so I just layered up embellishment on that edge. And there are basically two places for embellishment here and then above the title, which I usually embellish around my title anyway. So I did my carving time title here. I put a little bit of embellishment, and I did use these little pieces as cues to where I could put some more embellishment, and decided to dot around the little yellow stars to bring in the yellow from the bottom. So I really love the way that this one turned out. I loved using the cut file with the fringe at the top. I almost always cut my cut files in white when I'm test cutting them, and so that's what these were, and I just decided to go with it. Of course you could cut it in color, but I love white, and so cutting it out in white usually works for me, and you can always color it if you want to, or you can pull your silhouette back out and cut some more. But I'm really pleased with the way that this turned out. Stuck pretty closely to the sketch for this one. I hope that you'll give it a try, and don't forget to check out the 8.5 by 11 and the double page spread for this sketch as well.